Hello, everybody. So today we're starting a new project, which is to make a space dogfighting game in Big Bang. Let's switch across. So yeah, what are we doing? We're no longer doing a teleporter toy. I guess we're going to do introducing project. Yeah, so what we're going to do is make a space dogfighting game. What's the name of the game that recently came out? Star Wars Squadrons. So there's a game ages and ages ago called X-Wing versus TIE Fighter. And that came out in the late 90s and was one of the very first, like, really good multiplayer games that wasn't a first-person shooter. So you'd already had, like, Doom and Quake and Unreal by that point. But X-Wing versus TIE Fighter took basically the same series of X-Wing and TIE Fighter, kind of like space simulators, arcade simulators, and had that, but with a multiplayer mode that was super cool and really popular. And it kind of fell out of favor because I guess nobody has joysticks or anything anymore. But they remade it as Star Wars Squadrons, and I want to make a version of that in Big Bang. And so the things I'm going to do, I've got here. So this is kind of what we do for a project. This one's fairly straightforward and simple. What am I going to do for this project at all? So I have some goals. Like, it's built for streaming. I think like one of the things we're learning as we go into like streaming game development is that we need to make stuff that's like interesting to watch being made. So it needs to be like not too simple that it's dull and we're just doing things that people understand easily, but also not too complex that we're busy debugging the innards of some complicated function for 2 hours, because that's not interesting either. And just like leaning into the cool, satisfying things that we can build steadily. It's going to be Star Wars because I love that old game and I want that kind of like not quite simulation, not quite arcade action for the way it works. The way we're going to do the like spaceship flight controls is going to be simple and not physicsy, but should still be complicated enough that it feels like you're flying around in a spaceship in that kind of Star Wars, or like Wing Commander is another game series for ancient people style games, and all of that sort of thing. Let me pull up the chat. I've done a poor job. Hello, John. Hello, Psych. Hello, Exceptional 3D. I've been following your videos with interest. It's nice to see somebody actually in the community making content for Big Bang. And the other thing is that this is going to be super drop in, drop out. So we have like it's one of the design goals we've had for like a lot of the games that we've made for Big Bang already, that like you're never waiting very long to get involved in something. So they can be asynchronous, like Thrust Heroes, where everybody's essentially racing independently of one another. Or it can be round based, like Terminal Junction and Escape the Aliens, where rounds are short enough that like joining when a round is in progress isn't like a bad thing and you can see what's going on. Can try and make this so that there are no rounds. And it's a bit of a push and pull over objectives and just getting top of the score table, and having that kind of as a thing that can go up and down. So, you know, it's the instantaneous best person will be the top of the score table, if there even is a score table. But mostly just so that it's like a fun space fight. Everybody's together, shooting each other, having fun doing that, rather than worrying about the meta of everything else. Awesome. I'm glad to see more's coming. Like, I'm really interested to see how you get on with the project you just started. That should be super interesting. Yeah, so like, what are we going to make right now is like, obviously we need to be able to fly around in space. So we need 2 spaceships or spacecraft. And I'm just like a laundry list of features of what that means. So to make dog fighting interesting, like just to more background on, like, again, why I find this really compelling as an idea is that I play a lot of combat flight simulators. So I play IL-2 Sturmovik, and obviously that is very simulator based. I have like VR headset and a throttle and a joystick and a rudder pedals and everything to play that. But the game, a lot of the game is about like dealing with energy and the energy state of your plane and managing that. And winning dogfights is basically roughly speaking, around managing the energy of the plane. So I want to have similar things there, where like knowing the ship you're in is what will give you the advantage in a fight, and knowing the weaknesses of the person you're fighting against. Just roll and pitch. You can set what your throttle's doing, can boost the engine, but if you boost the engine for too long, you explode. Laser cannons, just straightforward, like dumb firing cannons to start off with. And then we obviously need to think about how do you make like a feeling of speed. Hey, Lafri les bests. I murdered that pronunciation, so sorry. If there's like something easier to call you, let me know. And then what we're going to do on top of that is like, what are the extra like additional things that we could do? So missiles is a really obvious one. That kind of like predictive targeting computer that you see in space shooters, fun to do, kind of straightforward once you actually think about it. More stuff to do in the game other than just pew pew each other. Shields, like energy management, different kind of energy. In this case, like your ship's internal energy systems. This is like what X-Wing and all of that sort of thing do in Star Wars Squadrons as well. Basically, your ship has a limited amount of power, and you can transfer it to weapons or to the shields or to the engines, and it kind of boosts the stats or reduces the stats of each of those things. And similarly with like shields, you can push them all forwards or push them all back. And when you do that, I think that's the Wing Commander that has that in it. When you push them all forwards, they're stronger in the front, but you have no shields behind you, vice versa. Same thing sort of happens. So it's another element of management that means that there's a higher skill ceiling to the game. There's more things to think about in order to be good at it. And just like more types of craft, the selection mechanics, spectating, turrets, camera shake and head momentum. So you're getting that kind of like pushed about by what's going on sort of thing. And so just a laundry list of things really that I think would be cool, and we'll like, investigate that as we go through building things. The other people commenting here are people that work on Big Bang as well. So Jordan does back-end tools for us, and Lily is doing all of the TypeScript compiler and language kind of integration work for scripting. But they also get to chime in on all of this sort of stuff that we're doing. And like the really nice thing is lots of ideas make games better, not worse. It's just how we take them and integrate them and all of that sort of thing. So anyway, that's what we're going to do. First thing we're going to do is the basic setup of the game, and then start working on basically the camera and the cockpit, just to get like something, and making it spacey, just to get something going so it feels like we're in space. So let me just update the current task. And now we're doing basic setup. So there's a bit to get through before we get to actually building things. I'm going to try and do this as much as possible in the editor that everybody else uses. It's going to make an empty world, and I'll of course share this, and I'm doing this on the main website, so you'll all be able to access it. I'm going to call it, Space Dogfighting Prototype. If anybody has any ideas for cooler names than that, I am open to suggestions. So yeah, like, I mean, this is the player in it. and it's not particularly spacey. So we could go through and use like one of the nighttime things here to get a dark sky, but I don't actually want to do that because it's going to ruin the lighting as well. Interestingly, we only have like a directional light, so that's going to make doing this difficult. But we have this sky, and that kind of adjusts the fade through here. And if I run to the side, you've got this middle color, top color, and then if I peer off the edge, there's a bottom color. And we can just kind of get this to maybe something purpley hued and super dark. Let's just copy and paste this all the way through for now, just as a starting point. And so you can see we have that, and you can really see the vignette right now on the screen. It's really bandy and horrific. And the lighting, fog doesn't make any sense. Maybe just go a smidge lighter in the middle, so you kind of got some sense of space. Let's go this way. Is that too purple? I don't know. And the fog color is, we could just turn fog off for now, I think. Having some fog in the future would probably be good. But for now, let's just have it off. Obviously, like I want to sit the player in the cockpit from the third person, other people's perspective. But obviously, I don't want you to be able to be seen or run around. Maybe for like selecting what's going on, we'll have the player be able to run over to something, and then you'll like teleport into the cockpit, and then you can take off. But for now, I think I actually want to disable the player entirely, still have them in there, just not doing anything. And to do that, I'm sadly going to have to jump into our admin editor. It gives you an idea of what .BigBang used to look like. All of the features that are in here, and the reason I'm using this is purely because it's a little bit easier to do. But all the features that are in here are coming into the other editor very shortly. But the reason I'm using this is it just lets me edit the player template and create a new version of it really easily. So you have this default player template. And this just, this is the same view that you see in the other editor. It just has the older UI and looks the way it does. So I'm going to just start wildly deleting these things out because I don't want, in fact, what I will do is unlink the entity and create Space Dogfighting player. And so all games have a default player template, and that is set at the moment as a property in the game. I think later we'll make spawning these something that actually happens in script land, so you can have more control over it. But right now it's in the engine. And I'm just going to start wildly deleting these things away because we don't need any of these things right now. List players. Ooh, do we want to keep emojis? No, we probably do emojis differently, I think. We'll keep the player list. Can we die? I don't think so. Get rid of that. Cosmetics can go. Death can go. Simple health can go. Simple damage can go. Health bar can go. Looking around can go. And this entity visibility script can go. So just keeping the name, the ability to play animations, and the ability to list the players when you press shift, essentially. And then I can update the template from the entity. This is in the new editor now as well, in the F3 menu. Cockpit view game, John. Cockpit view game. We'll see. We could do both, really. I mean, for people's preference, but I see this as a cockpit view game because I like that myself. But it depends on how the game goes. If people like this works better third person, then we could do it third person as well. But Cockpit View does give some like nice advantages in terms of just making everything feel like you feel like you're in the spaceship, essentially. So we've done that, and you can kind of see what happens when we play the game. Players spawned in, and now I can't move them around. I'm pressing the keys to do it. Yeah, multiple views. Like one thing I think would be cool is to do there's like a couple of like classic early flight sim and like that sort of thing camera view controls, so being able to look left, being able to look right, and being able to do what's called padlock to your current target. So like one of the really important things in regular like dogfighting in like a World War II setting is being able to keep track of the person that you're fighting with, and you end up in maneuvers called scissors or rolling scissors, and what you're doing there is trying to force the person that's attacking you, that's behind you, to overshoot you so that you can shoot them in the butt. And to do that, you need to be able to look at where they are and judge how they're moving relative to their position on your canopy. And it's, you know, that's like a complicated, weird explanation of something. But having that view, being able to see where your target is kind of like the important thing, and where they are relative to you, so you can make the right inputs to get them under your crosshair and shoot them down. So I think like that would be a cool thing to implement as well. We'll start off with just a static forward view, and then start adding these things on once the game's going and we like decide what we want to do. I think probably what I've done before is had voting in Discord about what we would do next. So I think once the base game's done, then we'll start doing voting on what should be done next in the game. Maybe even get other people contributing if there's people that want to do that. Yeah, there's loads of stuff we can do. But yeah, let's carry on with making stuff. Right, stop the game, make sure we've saved the game. And then we can go back into here, reload the game just so we get all those changes. And tootle around, and then just to prove that stuff has changed, I can bosh it in here. Yeah, No Man's Sky is good. I like really enjoyed. I bought No Man's Sky and played it really early on, and then refunded it, and then bought it again and played it. Don't like the planet flight stuff so much, and it's just one of those games that, you know, I just like playing it for 10 minutes and then that's enough for me. But yeah, I think yeah, flyby cam, now that is actually a good one, because it's kind of interesting to set up, like what's the good view and all of this sort of thing. Anyway, the link's there. You can jump in and prove to yourself that the player no longer can move around or anything. Next thing to do is get rid of the green ground and the other guy. So one of the fun things is you can't currently select the ground, but we can select him. This could be another. I just jumped out of the editor too early. We can select the ground here, and the reason you can't delete it is because it's called ground. It's basically there to stop people ruining the game for themselves straight away. But now I can delete it, and I'll leave these spawn points in, and we're kind of in something that looks sort of like space. So a couple of routes. We need some stuff in here to make it more space-like some planets that sit in position, and a spaceship carrier to take off from. But I think what we'll do is just build out like a cockpit and like the framework for how we're going to have our spaceship model work. And apologize in the background if you can hear people yelling. It's my children who are already off for Easter. So there is a there is a spaceship model. I don't know if it's cool or not in here, that I've used before a bunch of times and will not remember the name of it. It's this one here. So we can drag that in, and the fact we have nothing to put it on actually makes this editor quite hard to use from that perspective. So I'm just going to quickly zero out the weirdness that it's made here. And I'm just using this as a placeholder right now. This isn't in any respect going to be used. So it's just zeroed. And the position is where it is. So let's get rid of that. Go away. And then we can fly over to it and just have a look at what's going on. And so what we want is this camera. We'll stop the game momentarily. And we've got the camera, which is off in the middle of nowhere right now. And we don't really want any of the stuff this camera does either. Spatial audio listener, yes. Aiming reticule, no, maybe. We would definitely want some kind of HUD, but we definitely don't want that. Pointer lock, probably. We'll keep pointer lock in there for now. So I'll just do that. Put a camera. And this is going to be weird because when I play the game now, camera's going to be wherever it was saved by default. And yeah, I need to switch back into the game camera, and now we can't move the game camera around. So we're breaking the functionality of the game, basically. What I want to do is I want to add this as so it's parented on this ship. And that's easy to do like this. And that means now when I move the ship around, the camera moves with it, which is the behavior we want. We want our camera to move with the ship. But what I want to do is, if I can select all of these together, put that 0, 0, 0, grab this, put that's position at 0, 0, 0. So it's basically on top of it's in here, inside the ship. 0 out the local rotation. So it's facing in the same direction as the ship. And then I want to just move it along and up. So 30 units up is too, well, it's not necessarily too much, but it's definitely too much for the size of this thing. 20 is maybe more sensible. We want to push it forwards. Maybe even a little more than that. And so like the idea is when you're a pilot in a spaceship, Jeremy Jackson, this is so cool. Yeah, no problems. Like the entire point of this is to both like show people how to start making things and also inspire them on how to do that, or inspire them for just projects you want to do. And so now like the camera is on the front and it moves based on where the ship is. And this is like, I think pretty fundamental and pretty important for making it feel like you're flying something around. Because if you imagine like an X-Wing or a TIE fighter, or maybe in a TIE fighter you actually are, but like usually the ship or the plane is rotating around its center of gravity, which is usually not where the pilot sat. So when you pull back to do a loop, the pilot is moving through a different kind of like arc. They're going through the same arc as the ship, but rotationally they're like when the ship rotates about its center of gravity, it's pushing the player through space as well. And I think that's like a super important thing super important part of the feeling of this, if that makes sense. Yeah, like doing like parenting, I think is again like another really good like thing to be aware of for doing this sort of stuff. And so now when we let's just save. The link's just a little bit up if people want to jump in and fiddle about with it themselves. Now we can see that the player's there, and if we go into the game camera, we're just looking forwards into the bleakness of space. So that's perfect. That's what we want. And you can kind of see like with the size of the player, like this offset, we're going to have to build like a fairly large spaceship to go around them, or at least scale up a bigger one. But this is again in the actual local. So the other thing to talk about is like people's different viewpoints. So, you know, for this player, they don't even need to have their spaceship drawn around them until we start being able to look behind you and things like that. They just need to see the cockpit view. So we don't even need this on here to drive them around and do stuff, but we're having it there to help ourselves debug things and show what's going on. So I'm going to build a cockpit around this front view, and this is going to be a bit fiddly, I think. And I'm just going to build it out of like placeholder cubes and make it look cool. So it's going to look like an abomination from this point of view, but from the camera, when the player's playing the game, it will look like you're in a rough approximation of a cockpit. And again, this is definitely something we're going to go back and improve. You could build the entire cockpit in the voxel object editor as well, but I'm just going to do it this way kind of quickly. So I want like a gray box. Is this a gray cube? This is a gray cube I made. Is it an enormous one? No, it's a tiny one. So this is perfect. A really good idea when you're making things is just to start out with something really simple to use that you can scale and move about. And I'm going to have to switch in between these camera views quite often now just to get this into the right place. Are we just in? Okay. Needs to go down. Now, yeah, now we have just a gray camera directly in front of us. So stage 1 complete. I believe this isn't properly thingied. So what I'm going to do is start. I'm going to have like a basic cockpit kind of entity, which is going to be this guy. And I'm going to parent everything to this. And I'm going to parent the cockpit to the plane for the same reason, so that when we move the plane, the cockpit comes with the camera. But I need to build everything so it's flat, so that when it gets rotated around, it does the right thing. So I'm going to push this down off the bottom of the screen, and we can go back in here, and yeah, you can see we're getting a bit of a feeling of a console. And I'll rotate it back maybe. Cool. And probably push it further away. And we can make it thinner as well. So using this is very useful for this. Don't know what direction it's facing in, so I'm going to assume that scaling it down this way is the wrong way. So undo that. Give me it back. X. There we go. So we've got that like that. You could argue that it's not quite. It's got some roll to it, which maybe don't want, or maybe we do. That was the actual important bit. Yeah, minus 90. I'm just trying to get it so it's roughly aligned. Is this still on 0, 0, 0? This is on. It is parented 5, 10, so 0. Okay, so we do want it over a bit. How wide is it? It's very confusing. It's like rotated round, so it is 5. So that is centered versus the camera. And so there should be approximately equal space this side and equal space this side. I want to do some struts coming up here and probably push this down a bit. I can actually edit it from this view, which is crazy. That's actually a great idea. Let's just do it from this view. YZ 15. And like half of 15 is 7.5. So it's back roughly in the middle again. Right, we will need another cube. So I'll just go back out to this view so we can see what it looks like. And you can kind of see it'd be kind of handy to be able to see like the view of the camera as it relates to this. But we don't have that, so it is what it is. We can duplicate this by control dragging on it, but it won't work because we've parented. So we have to unparent and then duplicate it. That is something that we need to sort out. So maybe I'll just I'll make myself a thinner thing and then make a copy of it before we bother with all the parenting side of it. So 3 and 3. Why is that? Does that feel like it's fatter? 339, 339. Is that square? It is square. So maybe even thinner than that. And then we're in local space. We'll push it up. We'll go back into this camera view and see what's what. Like that is fairly chunky still. Let's make it quite a bit thinner. That's more like it. And I'm just going to like jam this into what exists. It's going to need to be longer. So the vertical scale was 10. Let's make it 13. What if enemies are terrifying space insects attacking Earth and it was called Void Hive? I like the idea. And I like the idea of having like the other, because this is going to be multiplayer. So I like the idea of having the other ships be quite different. So one of the things you can do is you can see this here right now. This is moving the object in local. If I press T, it's moving the object in. I'm trying to get that tiny sliver of orange. Without doing that. It's moving the object in world space. Maybe I can just do this. Okay, it is doing the right thing, I think. Then we can jam it down inside. Go back into this view. I'm going to rotate it a little this way. So I'm going to move this sideways in a second. And the great thing about doing this in the local space is we can do that. And just see what it looks like. You can kind of feel that it's separate. It almost feels like it's got a weird shade down one side of it. Let's just get quick. Whoops. Let's fly miles away at high speed and not be able to see what we're doing. So what we want to do is move this forwards just so it's roughly here. And then what we can do is control drag to duplicate it, wang it over the other side. And if we find the transform, we can see it's minus 88. So we can make it plus 88. It's facing in entirely the wrong direction. That's exciting. That was not the right thing to flip over. Probably the roll. Again, not the right thing to flip over. The pitch is actually... I wish I knew what... See, one of the things we need to expose is the actual... other... like the more kind of like Unity-esque draggy handles, so you can tell what direction things are facing in. So maybe we need to do 2 of these or all of them. I will foolhardily do this. And it's okay, well, it's back to facing in the same direction it was before. I want it just to spin 180 degrees. So that span 180 degrees. It's this blue axis. There we go. Now my brain understands what's going on. So we just, yeah, reposition this again. I don't know what went wrong there. So let's just look through the camera again. And if we just save. And just turn the edit view off. So you can kind of see that we have, like, this isn't positioned right. You can kind of see that we've got a bit of something that looks like a cockpit coming together. Probably need something to represent like a nose and that sort of thing flying out into space. But we'll get there. So this thing needs to be moved over a bit. We're not aligned. This is minus 90. So this should be minus 90 as well. There we go. And now I can't move this about. Why are you not working? Selecting tool. Interesting. Is this one minus 90? No. It's very odd that it came in like ever so slightly off. Okay, there we go. Now we can grab this one. Jam it right up to the edge. That's better. So what I think is, like, this is fine. It's leaning away though. So if we lean it the other way, let's just undo that and do that in word space. No, we can't really help ourselves. So we'll rotate ourselves forwards. We'll do the same thing here. That feels more cockpit-esque. And I actually even quite like the fact that, like, this is disappearing behind there, so it gets shadowed a little bit. Do some edges next, just so that we have those. And then I think we'll do something to give a sense of that there is a nose here. And then we'll be hopefully pretty much done and can reparent everything. Whoops. So we want another one of these guys. And we'll just drag it around the side and push it down a bit. You can kind of see we're almost like 3D modeling this, but doing a really shoddy job of it. I've really just eyeballed that totally, because it's not something that we really need to get out of the game mode. It's not something that's super important. You can see that that looks vaguely okay. Like when we have like a full view all the way around, we want to spend more time arting this essentially. But for now, this really shonky put together thing is what we've got. We're going to grab another one. And what I would love is to be able to easily copy paste some of this stuff. But what we'll do is make this bigger, which did not annoyingly make that bigger. So we want to yaw you 180 degrees. Gonna get my calculator out, because this is what I need to do. Minus 138 or minus 1 plus 180. Should know this. 42. That was the quicker way of doing it. And as we can see, it did totally the wrong thing, because spinning it 180 degrees was not what I wanted to do. I want to spin it 90 degrees. So minus 138 plus 90. Anybody? 138 minus 90. 48. What is going on with that idea of rotation? I swear there's like definitely something weird going on there. Guess this is rotated. So let's stop doing that and start flipping things. And is that right? Yes. And this position. So what we can do is quickly parent this to the cockpit. And then we've got the local position here for it. And we basically just need to flip the X value of that. So if we parent this to the cockpit, then we can transfer that value across. So 4.86. This one is 5.2. That's correct. And it's 51.9789. 51.9789. Does this look anything like what we want it to look like? No. Damn. So we've screwed up somewhere. This is because, okay, yeah. So this square's origin isn't in the middle of it. So would need to account for that. So I think we're just going to eyeball it. We're approximately in the right place. We just need to move it over a bit. So 8.86. How does that look? We need to go out of edit mode to see. Got like this amount on this side. You got this amount on this side. It's very roughly right. Like the shadowing's super ugly, so we need to look at that at some point. And I think I want to move this down along with these bits. So we'll do that as well. And these are parented, but they are roughly in the right position, but that will stop us from moving them. Definitely did not want to do that. Don't accidentally delete your transform component. No good will come of it. Have I broken the game? The answer is yes, I have. So let's save it quickly. Does have a transform component back again. Yeah, I made a like space diving game called Void Dogs. So the whole Void name is extremely appealing. Okay, so it did not even manage to save our game. So we're back here, which is even before I twisted these things forward. That is annoying. But yeah, so one of the things that will be coming, come on you. One of the things that will be coming soon is the ability to edit these things safely. Because that was just a stupid, like, unforced error in terms of all of this sort of thing. So we rotated that forward like that, and this one forward like that also. And what I was going to do before we did the other things, grab all these together, push it down a bit. That's better. So there's a lot of wasted space down here right now. That's fine. We'll just quickly slam through and do the next bit. Lean it back a bit more. And rotate it round. And can we actually see that? No, we cannot. Needs to come up. So I'm doing this with the world space transform turned on. So So this is kind of, yeah, down there. That's much more, feels much better, at least to me. And one of the other interesting things that you can sort of see when you're doing this is like the actual geometry versus what it looks through the camera can be quite different. Like it feels much more claustrophobic in the internal view than it does here. What was I doing? So F3 transform, flip roll, and it's correct again, but we need to do this sort of by eye. See how that is. That is very wrong. What has happened to the height of it? This is 6.1. This is 6.1. What? That's never true. Is it the angle? Interesting. Yeah, it'll be another thing because it's not quite at the right place. So let's get closer. And close this for the moment. Just to save any further faffing around, I'm just going to call that good. And the last thing I said was having something sticking out the front. So it felt a bit like had a nose to it. And then we'll do the same thing again. Just grab this one. And we'll drag it out. And we'll just scale it a little. So transform. Don't want this on there. So it's standing up straight. It's annoyingly make this 10. Maybe make this 9 and make this 10. So we can kind of like jam it on the front. Approximately in the middle. Does that show here? So, you know, it's not anything like a finished model or even good, but it is enough, I think. We need to, it's 10 wide, so the middle is 5 precisely. But it does give at least that impression. It feels more like a tractor in space, I think. Yeah, it does feel like it, like, I think it's what depends what you're going for, right? Like this is like a really classic, like, interpretation of what like a fighter cockpit might look like. Like the interesting one is like, you know, an actual fighter cockpit is like way more claustrophobic and in your face and doesn't give you so much space to look around. But this, because it's a game and we're going to probably, at least for now, primarily in this first person view, then like not being able to see so much is quite interesting. And like, you know, maybe for the other craft, for the other side, the other team, we'll make it a bit different again. So like, you know, there's maybe a bit cut off the top and a bit cut off the bottom, but less. It's kind of one of the interesting things. I will answer your question in a second, John. It's kind of like one of the interesting things about like Star Wars, with like you got the whole rebel side that are flying like X-wings, Y-wings, A-wings, and all these sorts of things, which are more like classic space fighter designs. And then you have the TIE fighters, which are really different and interesting and weird in comparison, really alien, with the whole like ball that the pilot sits in and the two kind of like weird wings on the side, and the fact that they're unshielded, whereas the X-Wings are much more heavily shielded, and all of this sort of thing adds into that kind of like sensation of flying stuff about. I think having that, clear visual delineation, but also when you get into the cockpit view, like particularly if we let you look around and have like more of the actual craft modeled as well. Like you have the wings on the side and above you for an X-Wing, so your view is really limited, and it kind of is in the TIE Fighter as well, but you're also in a glass ball, so you could like really easily look behind you, whereas in like an X-Wing you couldn't really look behind you at all. And being able to look behind you is actually quite a good advantage from the perspective of fighting. I'm going to quickly save this before I break it again. So what have we done right now? We've done all of this. We need to parent things. That is actually something we need to do. So this, and this. They need to be parented to the cockpit. And the cockpit needs to be parented to the thing. And the question John asked was like, how do you turn this grey box stuff into something real? And the answer to that isn't really very complicated. It's just going through and replacing each of these elements with something else. So in the case of Dot Big Bang, like deciding what the craft will look like. We've done no visual design whatsoever of what this spaceship should look like. We're just kind of wanging in a cockpit to get started making the game itself. So there needs to be some visual design, some concepting of what this should be like. Probably change substantially how it looks, and probably go back into the grey box and adjust it just to see what it feels like to sit inside. And then go and like replace each of these pieces with voxel objects that have got them set up. I mean, like obviously these struts probably don't need much work. Maybe there's extra instruments on the side, so we want to put like little panels in there. This probably wants to like taper and be more like whatever the nose of the craft actually is like, as opposed to just a grey box. Start putting some detail on the instrument panels, work out what that is. Do we want to have like diegetic UI that's actually on the panels, or do we want to have UI that's on the HUD and these sorts of things? So like it's answering a lot of questions that we're really trying to avoid answering by doing it in a grey box. Did I actually parent this to the ship? Yeah. So now what we know is that the parenting didn't work. None of this got parented to the thing. I'm going to cry in a minute if this is what I think it is. Yeah, so okay. So that's annoying, but it is solvable. So the issue here is that the everything can parent to the ship just now. The issue is that because I've grey boxed this by scaling things, they're now non-uniformly scaled. They don't have the same scale for each axis. So I can't update the parent. Now it's not parenting anything. SB fleet, please. Oh, I know I did. What went wrong there? So now it's not parenting. Now I can't parent them to the main cockpit thing, but I can still parent them to this. And now when I move this around, our cockpit moves with it. So for example, we can, hit the player out the way. Come over here, player. If we stick the player in front, then we can go here and we can see the player just in front of us. And so on. And we can even rotate the ship as well. And we can see we're about to run him over with our tractor, which is what I've made the cockpit for, I've realized. And so the next thing to do is maybe make something that gives a bit of a vibe of space carrier as opposed to what we've got now. So we have a like starting position really, for these sorts of things. Something to fly around as well. Let's just get rid of that rotation I put in. Just because I want to save and I don't want like extraneous numbers going in when I'm trying to do stuff later. So we're getting there with the setup. Like, this is always going to take a bit of time. Now I'm going to jump into the voxel object editor and build like a little carrier. And again, this is doing it in a way that is relatively straightforward, rather than taking lots of time to art it together, because we'll come and art it later on. So I'm literally building a deck just now. I'll clean these things up and then use this tool. So the carrier is just going to be a tube. So like a runway, you land on one end and take off from the other. How many did I put this way? One. I should just put the mirror tool on. Then we can go like this. Always build objects like this with the mirror tool. So we can go like that. And for example, just to like try and give it a little bit more interest, get not green, but more of a yellow. And paint in, give like 2 there. So we can put a front end. And a back end in there. And maybe some weird, funky markings. It really confuses my eyes. Just do something like that. I mean, like this, you know, there's nothing, this is where we'll spawn the player's ship, essentially. There's nothing really complicated about it. It's just that it's very flat right now. And then if we grab this color again, and we go a bit darker, then we can start building up an outside to it. If I could voxel well. So just dunk, 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 dunk. And on the bottom, dunk. And let's close across the bottom. And kind of like the point of this, just go through and make something super placeholdery. Without going crazy. But also giving at least some shape to it. So as a direction, I think is, you know, partly what I was going for there. And then we want to close across the top. So I'd maybe go up one more level and draw like a line across the top. This kind of cool thing about working in voxels as well, because it's really super simple to model something really poor. So now we have this like closed box, which is where the people spawn from. And just in the interests of making it more interesting to fly through, let's boost up a bit in, whoops. Can make it something Yeah, let's do something that's a little like engines or something on the back. Is that the back? I guess it is. And some faux dibbly bits. Just so, you know, it's not totally boring. I'll just call it Spaceship Dog Fighting Prototype Carrier. And save it. There's a lot of grey in this, which I think is maybe too much grey. Don't get really colourful things. Ooh, yeah, like that. So that would be super useful. Like those objects, the space themed objects will be super handy. John, do you know if there's any good planets that people made? Because that's the other thing I really want to add just to get this like going off the ground. So we can get back our resource browser. I can go in the mine tab. And I just made this carrier so I can drag it in. And it's not the right size. So two things. Let's bring it up. And let's just zero out this because that seems to be what I always screw up. And then we want to make it much, much bigger. And how much bigger do we want to make it? 20 times bigger? That was just on one axis. We want to make it 20 times bigger on all the axes, please. That's pretty big. You can kind of see that at this scale, at least, it's not very long. And let's just push it down. So this is the other thing, right? Like you start editing things in the voxel object editor. Did I push it down too much or not enough? Too much for where the spawn point is anyway. Why is that not on the screen? Go up ever so slightly. That's really frustrating. Let's go up until we bury them. Back down a bit. So there we can go into the bird's eye view, and now we're in inside our ship. And the one thing we knew about it is that it's a really pubby little thing. I'm going to spin it around the other way, and I'm going to at least triple the height of it. That makes it so much worse. I'm at least going to triple the length of it. So it looks horrific, no joke, from the outside, and not that great from the inside either. But it's at least giving us some sense of being in a spaceship carrier. So we'll do that. And then the other thing I want is planets. Space scene. Let's find space scene. You have somebody's remixed your game. Oh, cool. There's some asteroids. That might be the space doodle. There's a horrific set of astronauts and aliens. These planets will be perfect, I think, actually. And I think I might use some of these asteroids, particularly these square ones. They're like pretty neat, I think. I'm going to remix it myself. And all I want to do that for is so that I can find out the names of the objects in the editor. Which will probably let you read-only see these things. Bum 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 bum. Is that like a little NASA rocket? That's super cute. What's this over here? So you can kind of see this enormous. Ooh. What's the? Is that like 2001 style thing there? What's this one? Venus. So we have Venus, solar system number 3, which I guess is this one as well. Mercury, the sun, a meteor. 1, 2, 3. Cool. So I'm going to use these in here. And I'm going to do it in a way that they're like backgrounds, so you'll never be able to fly to them, would be generally the idea. And to do that, well, first of all, I need to add them in. So yeah, all Venus. Oh, nice. Loads of people have made Venus interestingly popular. So there's Venus. There was Mercury. And there was the sun. Huh. Not quite the right sun. This one's on a stand, so we'll just use these 2 for now. I don't want to go and remix Rose's work, or Rose's work. And so what we're going to do is we're going to parent these as well to the ship, but we're going to remove any of the rotation of the ship from them, so they'll be in the same space relative to the ship all the time. So we're going to go in and just find the ship, and I am actually going to copy the ship and just change its object to a red cube. You know, is there no red cubes? Red cube. Yes, this is the red cube I made the other day. Do I have my cube selected? And this is just going to parent to the ship again. And this is going to hold the solar system. I'm going to call it solar system. And so we just need to make a script on it, which we're going to call Spaceship Dogfight. I'm adding a script, new script. Which we're going to call Spaceship Dogfight. Remove local rotation and just save that. And this is super simple. Doesn't have any parameters to it. Going to do it after collision. So last thing that happens, can do this dot entity dot local transform dot rotation set 0, 0, 0. And we'll save that. And we'll save the game. So what will happen, the game's running right now. So when I rotate this, you can see that it doesn't rotate in relation to anything, although I didn't rotate the right thing. Wait, what? You're doing the wrong thing, cube. I'm doing the wrong thing. So we want the local rotation to change because it needs to change relative to the thing it's parented to, but we want the world transform to stay the same. Because we set this here, the engine recalculates that for us. So now that thing will always point up, and always, if we like yaw, it'll always stay facing towards us, and so on. Perfect. First script written for this game done. And so we're going to parent everything to this solar system entity. And we're going to do that. I'll just do it with where they are right now, just to show the effect. Going to parent it to the solar system. And then we can save it. And the other two things I want to do here is to remove the collision from it, and that's it. And that way it won't push anything around. So if we go into the camera view here, we can't see the solar system right now. So we want to grab the ship and bring it into a position where it can see the solar system. So yoinking it upwards. And you can see by moving it around, the solar system moves with us. So we'll never go towards it. If we go out into the bird's eye view now, we can see one of the planets in the solar system. But we don't see anything here. And so there's a couple of things we need to do. Well, let's rotate the ship first as well. Hang on a second. Something's broken again. Why is my red cube? It doesn't have my script on it anymore. So there we go. So we can see the effect more clearly now. Rotating the red cube. So you can see that the cube remains attached. And these, they do move a little bit, which is curious. Oh my gosh. Probably because this isn't on 000. Let's find out. Oh, it's not parented. What? Ugh. Why are you not parented anymore to the ruddy thing? Okay. Now it's at some weird offset. It needs to be in the middle because it needs to not move when I rotate it. Okay. Save. Save. Okay. So now that does entirely the wrong thing, which is a good start, always. Where did you go, cube? Are you missing the script again? Why is the script being taken off again? I'm going to go crazy. We want the default of this to be 0. Just on the assumption that something's broken. Is there any errors in here? There aren't any errors. So why does this keep maybe I'm okay, maybe it's something to do with the undo logic. Let's get my solar system up again and add its script back on for the millionth time. Save the game for the millionth time. Will you stay on, please? Just trying to demo this. Right. They're still moving a little bit, but that is annoying. But they're not moving enough that you probably notice it all that much. Particularly, well, when they're further away, you will definitely notice it more. But here you can see we can't see anything. Has it removed all of the parenting? That is super frustrating. Is this still parented? Thank you, Heather. This isn't parented anymore either. Okay. What is going on? I'm going to definitely pass this to our engine people, editor people, because something very strange is going on. Hey, how's it going? I'm going to murder pronouncing your name, I'm afraid. Is it Tanaze? Something like that? Yeah, my children are here, so welcome to the stream. We're just getting really set up right now, and I'm having woes with things remaining stuck together. Is this view still correct? basically. I think it's maybe rotated a little bit off what we wanted. Let's make this. Make sure that's zeroed out. And then all of this needs to be parented to the ship. Let's save the game. And make sure all of this stuff sticks. Okay, that is definitely parented. That isn't parented to anything. The solar system is parented. Okay, we'll reload now and just double check. We're making the solar... I should really change the name of this. The task we're currently doing. I've not updated that in a while. Background... The background solar system is what we're doing right now. So, okay, we're flying above whatever the heck we're at here. We have our solar system. Our solar system is parented to the solar system. Our solar system has the script on it. Our cockpit is parented to the ship. So we can rotate this and we can see the solar system. Oh my gosh, that took way too long. And we can rotate like this. And we can see a different view of the solar system. So you can see as we're flying around, we'll never get closer to our solar system, but we'll continue zooming around it. But the problem right now is if we fly inside something or behind something, we can get the solar system clipping inside of our objects that we're flying around. So we're going to have to put them far enough out that that doesn't happen, and or isn't noticeable at least. So if we take these and we just add a 0 to each of these distances as a first approximation, where is that? I no longer see you, Venus. You're all the way out here. So it's probably not even that far away in this case. Probably want to go larger. Make it 100 times larger. Then we can zoom out and we can kind of see where it is approximately in relation to this. So it's up here. It still looks absolutely massive at that distance. If you go in the game, we can't see it, but if we tilt ourselves upwards, we still can't see it. So this is to do with the camera settings, which are in here. So we want the far plane to be bigger. Now when we do this, we can still see it, which is nice. And so, yeah, we can look up and still see it, but this is way too close to us now. Probably want to have like a minimum distance of at least, let's make it 2000. Ooh, that's the scale. That was not what we wanted to change whatsoever. Yeah, 2000. So now it's kind of big in the sky. All of those are over 2000. You can grab this and make this 2000. And make this that. Maybe make it negative. Make this negative 2000. And we just need to make it bigger now, because it's way too small. Cool. And we can probably find it if we look around. It's down below our ship. You can see like that 2000 distance isn't even that large in respect to things. We can add a couple of scripts onto this to make it fly around roughly and get a feeling for what this is like as a thing. Is there like a move forward script? I don't want forward and back. I just want to slowly move forwards. Movement forward. So that makes it move forwards. I'll just pause the game so it doesn't disappear too far. And then I just want one that's going to rotate it as well. Easy rotate. Random rotate. Rotate on axis. What is easy rotate? I wrote it, so it should be good. Okay, yeah, so it's going to rotate it there. So this will spin us round and round and round. Like this. So it's rotating us quite fast. I don't think we can add two of those. So if we do 1 and 1, it'll spin us around like this, which isn't quite how the ship's going to fly, but there we go. 20 degrees a second. And make us go a bit faster. Then we can ride around in our spaceship. And we can see the sky banding, making things work nicely. You can see this shoots past us as we're rotating around. You can see the going to crash into the carrier. Bonk. It's an interesting one with the shadows as well, because they're shadowing things. We're going to see this come past again. We're going to see the same thing happen. So this is zipping around in the world. If I zoom out a bit. And you can kind of see that the planet is moving around with it. So it's always staying a constant distance away from the ship, but the rendering puts it far enough away, like, so it's pretty big. I mean, like that's pretty cool. We could add our fog back in at this point as well. If we get our rendering properties back up. If we enable our fog, probably we won't be able to see anything anymore. It's just fogged out, although that in itself isn't crazy. It's because our far is pretty close. So if we make our far like that, go back into the camera view. And this is kind of the thing where you might want to tweak these values a lot so nearby stuff doesn't get fogged out. And it might even want to selectively turn things on and off. So fog is maybe not the best thing for this game. Yeah, you're kind of like not seeing any of the detail really. But that's cool. Right. Stop. Let's get all of this stuff off. Stop the game. Save the game. Save it. I'll chuck a link in again for new people in the chat. And so where are we at with what we're doing? Well, we have like some of the basics there really is basically where we're at. Let's get rid of that panel quickly. We have 2 planets. There's probably not enough space stuff to orient the player when they're flying around, but we'll add more. But we could just add more of these in. Is an idea. You're kind of like losing. This is going to be an interesting one in the editor. The editor camera doesn't look far enough to have like a bunch of these in. We can have them off plane with each other. And just do this sort of thing. Tweak them a little bit. Obviously in the future we will want those to be let's see if we can see those as we fly around. There's our thing. You can see there it was poking through one of the ships. So it's still not quite far enough away. You can kind of see that you have that feeling of like flying around. It's super weird because we're flying like a person wouldn't, just because of the thing that I chose. But you are getting to see that kind of like view of things. We're going past that close by. So there's a lot of like emptiness there. So maybe we need some stars and that sort of thing as well. But it's a start. Let's stop and just zoom out. So the next thing to do is just start working on the static part. Yeah, so particles, that's a really good idea. I have something to add onto our solar system. So the problem right now is that the particles are always local to the ship. So we'll just add some particles in and we'll just stick them on this middle carrier for right now. If I put them on the ship, then they would be moving with the ship. That is the one issue. And so if we play the game now, you won't be able to see these particles. They're just being fired out randomly, which isn't what we want at all. We want them still to be in a volume, but we want quite a big volume. We need to face the camera. You can have like maybe just a teeny weeny velocity. Don't need gravity. Maybe have some drag. What's that like? I don't see them anymore. I see some particles zipping. They seem to be moving very quickly. Let's do initial velocity of 0. Just so they're sitting about. Where are you, my space particles? So it should be big. And we're probably not spawning them fast enough. Maybe if we go into our camera view, here we go. You can see more particles. So this sort of thing's good enough for stars. And we could even have them like spawn like that. So you get way more of a sensation of how you're moving in a way that makes me feel kind of sick. Because we're kind of like going nose down and yawing at the same time. It's not a very natural way of doing this. So yeah, it gives a real good impression, at least helps with that sensation of movement. What I want to add in is like stars coming, like streaks coming past you as you get faster, and like dusts in the air near you. And that will be done with another particle thing that's going to require some thinking about to actually make it work. But that is a good start. So I'm going to go in and grab this guy and actually take these scripts off it now, because time to start making flying into a real thing. And just for the sake of my own sanity later on, I'm not going to start us off. Why will you not let me see the entity panel? Can I have it facing forwards and stick it back in the spaceship. See where we're at. Cool. And in fact, we're going to take off facing a planet. So it's already a pretty epic view. You can see the problem here that this planet is in front of the guy behind it. So we could even push this planet like further back. And let's just do that the lame way. Okay. So part of that problem is we changed like the global position. Whoops. Not the local position. 11,000 is maybe too much. We'll just do that for now. And so our view taking off is this. But we need to start making a script to handle all of that stuff. We'll save for the umpteenth time. But the thing we're adding the script to is our spaceship stand-in, because that's what's going to be driving us around. So I'm going to call it Spaceship Dogfighting craft. So I'm just naming these so I have everything SD underscore something or other, and that way it's easy to, like, when you want to open them, you can just do SD underscore, see like the scripts that are being made for this. Yeah, I don't think, like, well, from start of game to flying in a first person cockpit around a spaceport in about an hour. Yeah, well, an hour and a half. But yes, I mean, we're doing prototyping, so this is pretty quick as it goes. Like, some of this stuff is like very quick and dirty and has issues with it, like wherever the hell the planets are, both down here now. We need to probably need to come back and revisit that and work out maybe some extra things we can do to make that work, or we just have to have more objects in the scene to give that kind of like ability to anchor yourself in space. That's the important thing, is like space is black and empty and full of stars, and if you're just floating in space spinning around, you're quickly going to lose orientation, and we need to keep orientation is the main thing. So what I'm going to try and implement today in this last like half an hour or so is like a super basic like flight controls. So we're going to do something really basic. So we're going to have some thrust. We're going to have a pitch rate and degrees. I'm going to have a roll rate in degrees per second. And all we're going to do is accelerate the ship forwards and then rotate based on player input, based on that rate. So you'll be able to fly around in the cockpit view in a really basic way. So we only want this to run. Well, won't worry about that just now. We'll make this multiplayer next time, and then we'll be able to fly around together in weird cockpit views shared with each other. But for now, what we're going to do is apply. Let's have a max speed as well, just so that we're just worrying about a few things. So what we want to do is have a current speed. Sorry, my kids are being super loud behind me. We'll just do speed. We'll go in the facing direction. So every frame, I'm gonna use one of the buttons. I'm gonna use the like default joystick input things right now. This will change because we want to have like a throttle setting, but this is just for flying around right now. We want to get the game controls and the button 1, I guess, probably. We've got this .game.input.controls, which is our generic controls, action 1. And we can call that throttle for now. And we also want to get the like flight stick. So we're going to call that this .game. Whoops. Input controls get stick 1, which is the left stick or the WSAD keys if you're using the keyboard, or the on-screen joystick if you're on mobile. And so all we're going to do is, if you're holding the throttle down, we're going to accelerate you up to the max speed, and if you're not holding it, we'll decelerate you to 0. So that's easy enough. We're going to do, got our current speed, so we've got this speed going to be equal to this dot is like throttle. Is this a Boolean value? It is. Okay, let's just do something here. So if it's down, it's going to be 1. If it's up, it's going to be -1. It gives us the direction we're going in. This dot thrust. This is our acceleration. Multiply this dot game frame delta time. So how much speed we've gained. So it's plus. And then we want to make sure we're not going above our maximum speed or below 0. So we do this dot speed, or rather, yeah, this dot speed equals math helpers, math utils, which is our library, clamp, and our value is our speed. Our minimum speed is 0, and our maximum speed is our user-definable maximum speed. So cool. That's how fast we're going, and also accelerating and decelerating depending on whether we're pressing the throttle button. And the next we just need to do is our like pitch and yaw, or pitch and yaw changes. So let's hook this up to the position, just so that we can prove to ourselves we're accelerating and decelerating and work out some sensible values for that. So we've got the speed, we want the velocity this frame. We'll create a temporary velocity, because this is going to be a vector 3. So 3-dimensional direction in space. And so it's going to be I don't think we need the temporary actually. We want the forward direction that we're going in. So we've got this entities, world transform, get forward. So we don't need that because it's gonna be doing this anyway. Gives us our own vector to play with. And we want to do forward dot multiply by a scalar value, and a scalar value is just an ordinary number if you've never heard that before, multiplied by our speed multiplied by the game frame delta time. So this is our current speed in units per second, and this is our amount of distance we've moved in this frame. So now we'll drive about. Nice. The hub is pretty fun. Did I just get BSG baited? Hey Cyborg, yes, absolutely, definitely BSG baited. Because that, like, I was thinking, like, what would be streamable? what will be fun to make. And I think this will be fun to make and is pretty streamable. Nice. Yeah, so we're just doing a real basic thing right now and extending it over time. Let's get into the actual game view. So hopefully pressing one of these buttons means we'll go forwards. We are not going forwards. Why are we not going forwards? Is it just poor choice of units or poor choice of thrust? Don't think so. Am I just not pressing the right button? That could always be the case. I am pressing the right button. I am not moving forwards. Okay, right. Let's add some console logging. This is kind of the thing where you could use the debugger, and I would, but I'm kind of just interested to get an idea of what's happening right now. Ah, I'm an idiot. I can already see what I'm not doing right. I've worked out how far we've got to go. I've just not added it onto our current position. Okay. If you don't add the amount you're traveling onto your position, you're going to have a bad time. There we go. It's on the button I didn't think it would be, but we're now steadily accelerating out. We're flying through space. I don't know why our particles disappeared, but they did. That's on us. And we're now slowing back down again. I don't know if we're going to crash into this. We didn't. Perfect. Going forwards and backwards works. Hi, Ulvrin. So before we do this, because this is the direction we're facing in, we want to make sure we change our facing direction. And for that, we're going to use stick 1 or stick that we've got here. And we're going to do a very similar thing. Stick actually already gives us a value between 0 and 1, so we can work out our pitch rate, like per frame pitch. It's super simple. It's just stick dot y for the up or down thing. And we might want to negate this. We'll see in a second which way around it goes. Multiplied by the pitch rate. Multiplied by the delta time. Again, how far did we go this frame? And per frame roll is the same thing, but with the x and the roll rate. And again with this. And so what we're going to do is we're going to make quaternions for both of these. So we want roll, and we want pitch. My children are stomping through the world. And so we could do this by an axis and angle, which kind of works for me. And roll is going to be around the forward vector, which is 0, 0, 1, because forward faces down the z-axis. And the angle is going to be the per frame roll. This is in degrees, so we want to turn it into radians. And to convert from, oh, I think we actually have it in there, so I'll just use that anyway rather than util.deg. It's amazing, my kids are just math utils. So we have this as a helper. It's actually quite easy to do yourself, but it is helpful to have somebody write it for you. And this because internally, like externally, it's really handy to do things in Yeah, I mean, like, we've done all this today, Cyborg. Like, we literally started this project today, and I made the cockpit and like a crappy carrier and a small space scene, and obviously we're just doing the lamest flying around we possibly could do, and it just feels good already. It does need some sound effects. We're doing pitch, and pitch is always around left, which is the x-axis as a vector, and per frame pitch. And we need to combine these rotations together and apply them to our, exactly. Like, I need to do some stuff to make it multiplayer, but hopefully next time we can all fly around in space together. And now I'm confusing myself because I am talking and trying to do maths in my head at the same time. So this is our current rotation, which is this entity world transform rotation as a quaternion. And we can set from Euler, which is what our rotation is stored as. And so now we want to multiply our things together in the right order to get the result we want. So we want to work out our pitch and our roll, and then we want to add those onto our current rotation to get the new rotation. And so this is always fraught with peril, because it's always confusing about which order you do these things in. So I'm going to get this wrong at least 2 or 3 times. To start off with, we're just going to do one thing and see what happens. So pitch first. And then let's run the game. And we're already in the middle of nowhere, so let's start and stop again. And go back into the game. And pitch is not doing anything, because I've made the same mistake I made last time. So we've got the rotation as a quaternion, but we need to apply it back. And we can set from quaternion. So if you don't change a thing, you don't change the thing. So that's pitch down and that's pitch up. It doesn't make sense because, again, the camera's like on the nose of the axis of rotation. That's kind of like why we move forwards a bit. But miraculously, that's actually organized the right way around. And now we're going to pre-multiply the roll onto the pitch. So we're going to roll, then pitch, then add that onto our rotation. And this is where stuff always gets fraught with danger. He said not going over the top at all. So we're rolling left, we're rolling right, we're pitching down, we're pitching up. Now we can fly around in our ship. Go faster, little shippy. I'm going to do sound effects now. Can I fly through the other hangar? Probably, because we're going really slowly. I'm flying this on a gamepad, so just, it does not, the pitch rate is very low. Ooh, no, something's gone horrifically wrong. Like if I roll, I'm rolling about some strange axis. I'm yawing now. We have done this wrong. We have done this wrong. Houston, we have a problem. Let's just see what happens from an external point of view. Will you let me roll? Okay. So rolling. Okay. Okay. We're doing it on the global axis. So that is what we're doing wrong. Hello. My parents have arrived. Everybody is turning up at the same time. I cannot remember how to rotate a quaternion on the right axis, which is not helpful in this case. Let's start again. Somebody teach me maths, please. So when we're facing the right direction, we've switched from multiply to pre-multiply. And you can see like our spaceship handling works correctly when we're facing the right way. And we'll fly forwards and we'll pull hard. It's working. I've got it right. This is, like I was saying, this is always what happens. These space planets will never get close to again. It's really, this is a pig. This spaceship is a pig. Right, let's see if we can fly through the hangar this time. It's not the maths that is the problem. It's the conceptual ordering of operations. This is not. Oh, there we go. We're flying through a hangar. First barnstorming type thing in this game. And now we have our things that help us keep us oriented. Not that it's really helping, because I have no idea where the other things actually are in relation to me now. So we can stop and spin around because we're in space. But now I can't see anything. I'm lost. Ooh, there's that. There's that. Where did you go? Did I fly too far away from them that I'll never find them again? Oh, here's one. So I was right next to it. There's like a whole bunch of them nearby each other. Here we go. Here we go. And for whatever reason, the star particles are back. Welcome back, star particles. Let's fly. This feels cool. This actually feels cool already. Will I make a radar? Hell yeah, we'll make a radar, he said, over promising. No, like they're doing a radar type thing is actually, I'm going to say, not that difficult. We should go faster though. This is lame. Come back, come back. Space thing. Thrust 420. Max speed. I'm not going to double it. 1800. Pitch rate sucks. I want more pitch. Roll rate is actually too much for me. I'm going to lower that down. Other people can play with this in a minute. Let's shoot off. Okay, this is more like flying a dogfighter. The pitch rate still sucks. Oh! Things just come into view and go away. Now the roll rate sucks. Okay. Pitch rate 90, roll rate 90. Let's stop the game, save the game, and people can play around in this for like the last 5 minutes. And we can chat through it and wrap up whilst I fly in. So here we go. We are sitting in a space dogfighting game that we have made from scratch today. Doesn't have dogfighting, has very ropey space, but you can fly around in it and have fun after a fashion. If you can control it, which I self-evidently cannot. Whoops. This is very difficult to find out where anything is. There they are. So you can fly around and get some idea of what it would be like to zoom past a thing. There's definitely like some elements of working out how fast things should go, and how fast you should be able to rotate, because we're actually very close together with these things. But it's not bad for 2 hours of work to get to this stage, I don't think. But yeah, it's a pretty nice view. So I have an outline of what we're going to be doing. We're going to be making this physics more interesting. We already have roll and pitch controls, but we're going to make how they relate to how fast you're going more interesting. You can have a throttle whose position you can set, and I think the engine will deliver like non-linear amounts of power over that range as well. So again, a bit more interesting. Engine boost, laser cannons, and dust for a sensation of speed. And I think adding more space junk to fly around is a no-brainer at this point. We've nailed taking off from a space carrier, I've got to say. So we're going to be working on this element for the next playtest. Next playtest, next stream, which is not next week on Wednesday, it's the week after on Wednesday, because it's Easter time and I'm on holiday. And yeah, we'll carry on working on this stuff and try and get it as far as we can, and also try and make it multiplayer. And maybe I'll also get John Voxelius to design me a awesome space fighter, so we have a third-person view. And we'll take the player who's floating around here somewhere, just standing around doing nothing right now, and we'll make them into a real person sitting inside a cockpit. So you'll be able to see who's flying the other planes. And Lily actually gave like a... Does it work on your X-52? Awesome. I have like a T16000S with throttle, and I got rudder pedals on my desk right now. I've got a VR headset. Let's get it all hooked up. Let's do it. No, I don't think we're going to end up in VR just yet, but it would be cool to do it in VR, particularly if we had a chance to make a slightly more attractive cockpit, I think, than the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cubes it's currently made out of. I think this is going to be awesome when it gets going and we can dogfight each other in space. That's my goal. Is my goal right now. In fact, probably the first thing I'll do in the next stream is make it multiplayer, because that's what we want to do. We want to be flying around in multiplayer with each other, having fun, and then we can add stuff into the game to make it more and more fun. Bonus. Awesome. Right. Anything else I should say? If you're new and you didn't see this before, we've got a Discord. Join the Discord, because I can't type. I really can't type. Because that's where a lot of these people hang out. Eric / Cyborg, Gaming in the World, who's John. That Cyborg again, with Sykes in here somewhere, Exceptional 3D's in here somewhere. All of these people hang out in Discord, make games, and are awesome people in general. So I will see you after Easter. Have a nice Easter, everybody. And try not to get into any trouble in the meantime. When I make it multiplayer, we will have a race. And when we add the extra like niggly controls in there, we'll have a race that'll be really fun to actually be super fun to race in. But yeah, I'll see you all next time, which is Wednesday, 2 weeks time, 2 hours ago, if that makes sense. So thank you very much. See you later.